Hey, Delco, Brad here. I'm here by myself today, which feels a little bit weird. We've been so blessed to be teaching in pairs since we started teaching online. But this week is just going to be a really quick recap of Ecclesiastes, and I'm really excited for the discussion this week. But let's get into the word. So we've spent about 10 weeks in this book of Ecclesiastes. It's a crazy, weird Old Testament poetry filled book that is confusing in certain ways. It handles all sorts of different topics, and it keeps using this word meaningless or vanity, which we've talked about as this word hevel, and it's smoke and it's vapor, and it's hard to grab onto. But honestly, the other day I was just talking with Randy and Steven and the group, and we were like, man, like I do wonder if there's been an essence of like repetitiveness about the book of Ecclesiastes, right? Because in the end, we talked about a bunch of subjects and we said, yep, they're meaningless. They're smoke. You know, you think about Eddie trying to grab onto that smoke, that vapor, and you go, what? Like, you know, he couldn't grab it. Like, and I couldn't grab it. Like, it's real. I can smell it. I can see it, but I can't grab it. It doesn't offer substance, so, you know, a handhold for me to grab onto. And we talked about how that applied in a bunch of different situations. We talked about how that applies to work, how it applies to money, how it applies to relationships, death, and all sorts of other subjects. You know, and all of these smoke vapor-like subjects can cause us a lot of grief and anguish and doubt and uncertainty in our lives, you know, because we reach out to try to find purpose and meaning in money, and it's unsatisfying. And we try to find it in relationships, and it's unsatisfying. And we try to find it in a new cycle of life, of starting a new job or becoming a parent or moving to a new state. And yet we still don't find fulfillment in these new places. And we go, well, what's going on here? And in the end, you know, what makes these things real? And I think I'll start by reading the end of the book of Ecclesiastes. This is chapter 12, verses 8 through 14. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. And that's the final words that the teacher says. So the guy that's been writing the whole book. Now, this next section is the guy who compiled the teachings. He says, keep this in mind. The teacher was considered wise, and he taught the people everything he knew. He listened carefully to many proverbs, studying and classifying them. The teacher sought to find the right words to express truths clearly. The words of the wise are like cattle prods, painful but helpful. Their collected sayings are like a nail-studded stick with which a shepherd drives the sheep. And just in case you were wondering, that was like a normal thing that shepherds did. They'd put a little thumbtack on a thing, and they'd hit the sheep, and the sheep would go, oh man, that hurts. I'm going to move away from it. And they would move towards a green pasture that the shepherd was trying to take them to. Verse 12. But my child, let me give you some further advice. Be careful, for writing books is endless, and much study wears you out. That's the whole story. Here now is my final conclusion. The author who compiled the teacher's works. Fear God and obey his commands, for this is everyone's duty. God will judge us for everything we do, including every secret thing, whether good or bad. And I think that's just such a great way to finish out the book, to say, you know, the teacher was this guy who collected all sorts of sayings and wisdom, and he sought to tell the truth well so that it was understandable. I don't know if he accomplished that for a 21st century audience. Hopefully you guys understand it a little better now. But the real question at the end is, what actually gives things meaning? You know, if you spend the whole book asking the question, well, trying to find purpose in money is meaningless. You won't find purpose there. You won't find purpose there. You won't find purpose in all of these different subjects. Well, where do we find purpose? And I think that's the question I hope you guys have been asking. It's a question we're going to talk about on Sunday, but I'd humbly like to offer Colossians chapter 1, verses 15 to 20 as an answer. And in that passage, Colossians 1, 15 to 20, it says, Christ is the visible image of the invisible God. He existed before anything was created and is supreme over all creation. For through him, Jesus Christ, God created everything in the heavenly realms and on earth. He made the things that we can see and the things that we can't see, such as thrones, kingdoms, rulers, and authorities in the unseen world. Everything was created through him and for him. He existed before anything else. He holds all of creation together. Christ is also the head of the church, which is his body. He is the beginning, supreme over all who rise from the dead. So he is first in everything. For God in all his fullness was pleased to live in Christ. And through him, God reconciled everything to himself. He made peace with everything in heaven and on earth by means of Christ's blood on the cross. And I'm going to go ahead and keep reading. The next few verses are so good. This includes you who were once far away from God. You were his enemies, separated from him by your evil thoughts and actions. Yet now he has reconciled you to himself through the death of Christ in his physical body. As a result, he has brought you into his own presence, and you are holy and blameless as you stand before him without a single fault. And guys, when I think about Ecclesiastes, and I think about how people in this world chase after money, they chase after relationships, they chase after new cycles of life, they chase after all sorts of different things, and they have questions. They go, what's the point of death? What's the point of pain? What's the point of suffering? There's not much meaning to be found under the heavens, right? We talked about that the heavens stand above us all, and anything under the heaven is the stuff here on earth. And if you only look at things from this earth's standpoint, you're not going to find much meaning. You're going to live, you're going to die, and that's it. And some people do find meaning in that. They say, you know what, I'm only going to live once, and I'm going to make the most of my life. And I think about the movie, the Carpe Diem movie with Robin Williams. This is when I wish I had a teaching partner, because they could tell me what movie I'm thinking of. But you know what I'm talking about with Robin Williams. Carpe Diem, seize the day. That he talks about going off with a great shout into the great beyond, right? And that's what a lot of people see as their purpose in this life, is just to make as big of a bang as possible, to be the brightest shooting star that the world has ever seen. And you're going to go out with a bang. But even with that, you look at it and you go, okay, but 100 years from now, who will ever know who you were? As big as a group like the Beatles were, like 100, 200 years from now, like, will we still know the name the Beatles? Possibly. But will the common person know their songs, know their music? Probably not. And I look at all this and I go, what is it that makes anything real? What is it that gives our lives meaning? And the only answer that we have is Jesus Christ. That Christ is the fulfilled nature of God on earth. That God created the entire world with him in mind. He created the entire world through Christ. That the fulfillment of the world someday in the second coming of Christ is going to be through Christ and for Christ. And that we have an opportunity to not only live for eternity with Christ, but we have an opportunity to find meaning in money on this earth. We have an opportunity to find meaning in our relationships. We have an opportunity to find meaning in our death, in all of the different things. And honestly, guys, it's such a good transition into our next sermon series. The next 10 weeks, I don't know what it is. The next amount of weeks, we're going to be talking about stewardship. What does it mean to take care of the resources God has given me? And I think Ecclesiastes is the perfect way to inform that, because we recognize that outside of Christ, the things of this earth are smoke. They're vapor. They're hevel. There's no true meaning in them. And if we try to grasp onto them, it'd be like trying to grab onto a pool handle to pull yourself up out of the pool. And when you grab for that handle, it just dissipates under your grasp and it disappears and you flounder back on into the pool and choke up some water. But when Christ is living and active in our lives, and when we reach for him, the handhold is real and solid and firm. And not only is the handhold real, but the hand that he is offering down to us to help pull us up out of the morass, out of the darkness and depravity in this world, that hand that he offers you is real. And I want to talk about that this weekend. During our facilitation time, we're going to ask the question, how has Christ made any of the subjects we've talked about in Ecclesiastes real for you? So that's it, guys. Guys, I would just encourage you, keep leaning into Christ. Keep leaning into the new life that he has offered you, because it's beautiful. It's scary. But man, it is an amazing thing. Delco, I love you. Thanks for letting me come here by myself and preach for a little bit. It genuinely does feel a little bit weird to not be here with Randy or Haley or Steven or Jordan or Hope. But here I am. I love you guys. And I can't wait to be with you guys on Sunday.